So Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to him. And when we sit at the feet of Jesus, I think there's two people, particularly, that we're there to learn about. We're there to learn about Jesus, and that we're there to learn about ourselves. In the responsorial psalm today, we hear these words. Truly, you have formed my inmost being. You knit me in my mother's womb. I give thanks that I am fearfully, wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. The psalmist is reflecting on who he is. Mary sits at the feet of Jesus. We all, I would say to you, would be well served to spend some time sitting at the feet of Jesus. But we are anxious and worried about many things. And so we allow ourselves to get caught up in doing this and doing that and doing the next thing, or checking this news and checking that news and checking the next thing, or seeing what the latest here, the latest there is, or whatever it might be. And we allow ourselves to be distracted into not sitting at the feet of Jesus. Mary has chosen the better part. Why would you choose to take some time, 20 minutes a day, let's say, and sit at the feet of Jesus in silence? To learn about yourself. To understand that you are fearfully and wonderfully made by the very hands of God. To get to know ourselves as a child of God, and perhaps more importantly, to get to know God, the God who made us. The first reading today is from St. Paul's letter to the Galatians, which we're going to be reading through. And it's almost entirely autobiographical, I should say. It is Paul talking about when he who from my mother's womb set me apart, he was pleased to reveal his son to me, etc., etc. I went here and I went there and I did this. What is Paul doing? He's reflecting on his life. Have he get to where he is? Let me ask you this. How did you get to where you are? And to sit and to have that conversation with God. And let God speak to our hearts. And again, we have Martha, busy with so many things, and Mary at the feet of Jesus. St. Francis is the saint we celebrate today. And St. Francis, and I'm not going to tell you his whole life story by any means, other than to say that St. Francis enjoyed a worldly life of pleasure and popularity and being born into a wealthy family, a reasonably wealthy family. And he enjoyed that. But at some point, he began to reflect a little more on who he was and who God was. And he felt himself being called to a different life, to a radically different life. He spent some time sitting before a crucifix. And he heard that crucifix speak to him, or Christ on the cross speak to him. And it said to him, Francis, rebuild my church. You know, would Francis have ever heard that and become the great saint that he is without sitting in silence and listening? You know, how many of you, if I gave you a questionnaire this morning and said, describe yourself, would say, I give thanks that I am fearfully and wonderfully made? But that is who we are. And we can be so distracted by so many things. And so let's take an example. from St. Paul, who clearly was coming to know himself. Mary, who was clearly coming to know herself at the feet of Jesus. And Francis, this great saint we celebrate today, who sat before the crucifix and heard Christ speak to him.